My perfect sister bullied me for years, and my parents ignored it. When she crossed the ultimate line, they finally saw her true colors and cut her off, but I refused to forgive her crocodile tears. Growing up as the little sis to Vivian was like being stuck in one of those horror movies where the monster only shows up when the parents aren't looking. On paper, we were your typical suburban family, dad coaching Little League on weekends, mom baking cookies for school functions, and two sisters just 4 years apart. But behind our white picket fence on Maple Street, total nightmare. I was always the tall, awkward one. By 6th grade, I was already 5 to 9 and tripping over my own feet. My saving grace was basketball, the one place where my height wasn't a punchline but an advantage. Coach Taylor spotted me during gym class and practically begged me to join the A team. For once, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Meanwhile, Vivian was the golden child, straight A's, perfect hair, and a smile that could charm the skin off a snake. Mom especially treated her like she hung the moon. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my childhood, usually after Vivian had done something to set me up. Her favorite hobby? Making my life miserable. She'd accidentally spill bleach on my jersey before big games or whisper stuff to the mean girls at school about how I supposedly didn't shower after practice. When I'd tell my parents, Dad would sigh and say, "That's just sisterly love," while Mom would flat out refuse to believe precious Vivian could do anything wrong. The worst was when I made varsity freshman year. Vivian told everyone I only made it because Coach felt sorry for Bigfoot. I came home crying, and Mom's response? "Well, honey, you are very tall for your age. Maybe she's just saying what others are thinking." For real, who says that to their kid? Things reached peak crazy the day of championships. I'd been practicing my free throws for weeks, staying late after everyone left. That morning, I grabbed my water bottle and headed out. Midway through warm-ups, I took a huge gulp and nearly spit it across the court. It was straight up salt water. My throat burned, and I started gagging right there on the court. Dad actually stood up for me that time. "Vivian, that's dangerous." She could have gotten dehydrated during the game. But before consequences could happen, Mom swooped in. It was probably just a mistake. Vivian wouldn't do that on purpose. I looked at my sister's face, not a hint of remorse, just that little smirk she always had when she got away with something. That night, I lay in bed staring at my participation trophy. We lost thanks to my terrible performance, and decided something had to change. Update, y'all, the support in the comments is blowing me away. Some of you asked if my parents ever wised up about Vivian's behavior. Keep reading. There's a moment when Mom finally sees the light, and it changed everything. Has anyone else experienced that moment when someone finally believes you after years of gaslighting? Also, what would you have done in my shoes with what happens next? Plot twist. Mom was the one who signed me up for jujitsu classes. Not because she finally believed Vivian was torturing me, but because she thought I needed confidence. Still, I took those classes like my life depended on it. 3 times a week at that dingy gym behind the 7-Eleven, I learned how to defend myself. Sensei Mike, this tattooed dude with a voice like gravel, would always say, "It's not about fighting back, it's about setting boundaries." I'd nod along, but let's be real. I was fantasizing about finally standing up to Hurricane Vivian. My chance came junior year. I'd saved up 3 months of babysitting money to buy tickets to a 21 Pilots concert. The envelope with $200 was hidden in my sock drawer, or so I thought. I came home from practice to find Vivian going through my drawer, the envelope in her hand. "Looking for this?" She waved my money like it was nothing. "I need it for Becky's birthday present." "Put it back," I said, dropping my gym bag. "Or what? You'll tell Mom? Good luck with that." For once, I didn't hesitate. I moved exactly like Sensei. Mike taught us. Quick, controlled, no anger. I grabbed her wrist, applied pressure to the right point, and the envelope dropped. Then I used a simple hold to back her against the wall. "Touch my stuff again," I whispered. "And next time I won't. Be so nice." The look on her face, pure shock that her personal punching bag had finally punched back. The best part? Mom walked in right as it happened. I thought I was toast, but instead she crossed her arms and said, "Vivian, we need to talk about respecting other people's property." Dad tried to defend Vivian as usual, but Mom shut him down. "She was stealing, John. This has gone far enough." After that day, Vivian mostly stayed clear of me physically. She switched to psychological warfare, spreading rumors at school, making snide comments at dinner, but something fundamental had shifted. I'd shown her I wasn't an easy target anymore, and more importantly, Mom had finally seen a glimpse of the real Vivian. When college acceptance letters rolled in, I took that basketball scholarship to Boston University faster than you could say freedom. Those 4 years were like coming up for air after being underwater my whole life. No Vivian, no comparisons, just me figuring out who I actually was without all that baggage. I made real friends, people who liked me for me, not because they were afraid of my sister. My roommate Tasha introduced me to her study group, and that's how I met Nick. He was this chill engineering major with kind eyes and the worst dad jokes you've ever heard. We'd grab coffee after my morning practices, and he'd show up to every home game with a sign that said, "Go Tall Girl." After graduation, we got a tiny apartment in Cambridge. I landed a coaching job at a high school while working on my master's, and Nick joined a startup. Life was simple but good. We'd drink cheap wine on our fire escape and talk about the future. Marriage, kids, the whole 9 yards. Then surprise. I found out I was pregnant. We fast-tracked our wedding plans. Nothing fancy, just a small ceremony at this brewery in Somerville with fairy lights and food trucks. I wore a sundress from Target and carried sunflowers. It wasn't perfect, but it felt right. Liam was born in August, all wrinkly and loud with a tuft of hair that stuck straight up like a little mohawk. Having him was like discovering a whole new dimension of love I didn't know existed. Nick seemed happy too, always taking pictures of my 2 favorite people and showing them to anyone who'd look. My parents visited, of course. Even Vivian sent a onesie with a card that said, "Congrats on the baby, hope he got Nick's height genes, not yours." Classic Viv, turning even well wishes into subtle digs. The first 2 years were exhausting, but good. Then things started to change. Nick began working late, taking business trips that seemed to get longer each time. When he was home, he was distant, always on his phone. I told myself it was just work stress, the adjustment to parenthood, anything but the obvious. One night, I found a hotel receipt in his pocket while doing laundry, from a weekend he was, supposedly, at a conference in Chicago. The location? A Marriott, 20 minutes from our apartment. I confronted him that night after putting Liam to bed. We were standing in our kitchen, the one with the awful green backsplash I'd always planned to replace. "Just tell me the truth," I said. "I deserve that much." Update. I'm sitting here reading your comments with tears in my eyes. So many of you guessed what was coming, and someone even said, "Check if it involves the sister." You have no idea how spot on that was. For those asking if I stayed with Nick after the receipt discovery, the truth was way worse than a regular affair. How do you even begin to process betrayal from the 2 people who should be in your corner? Anyone dealt with family betrayal that cut this deep? Nick's face crumpled like he'd been holding in a breath for years. "I've been seeing someone," he admitted, staring at our kitchen floor. I nodded, numb. "How long?" "On and off, since before Liam was born." That hit me like a truck. My knees actually buckled and I had to grab the counter to stay upright. "Before our son was born? Before our wedding?" He nodded and a terrible thought hit me. "Is Liam yours?" My voice came out barely a whisper. Nick's eyes finally met mine. I don't know. She says he is, but she? Something cold and heavy settled in my stomach. "Who is she, Nick?" He couldn't even say it. Just pulled out his phone, opened Instagram, and showed me a photo. Vivian, at some rooftop bar. Caption, "Missing my secret getaway." The room started spinning. I grabbed a chair before I fell. "My sister? You've been sleeping with my sister?" Nick paced our small kitchen, running his hands through his hair. "It started that Christmas we visited your parents. You had that stomach bug, remember? You were asleep, and Vivian suggested we go for a drive to get you some ginger ale." I remembered. I'd been so grateful he'd gone out for me. Meanwhile, it was supposed to be a one-time mistake, he continued. But then she kept texting, and when she visited that time, stop. I couldn't bear the details. "Does she know about Liam? The possibility?" Nick nodded. "She's the one who pointed out he has her chin, her ears." I thought about my beautiful boy sleeping in the next room, his little chin that I'd always thought looked like my dad's. Had Vivian been seeing herself in him this whole time? Had she known all along he might be hers? "Get out," I said quietly. "Pack a bag and get out tonight." To his credit, Nick didn't argue. He packed while I sat motionless at our kitchen table, my entire life collapsing around me. Before he left, he turned to me. "For what it's worth, I do love you. And Vivian doesn't mean anything. Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't you dare try to minimize this. You and my sister conspired to lie to me for years. About my marriage, about my son's parentage, there's no coming back from that." After he left, I called my parents. Dad picked up, groggy with sleep. "What's wrong, honey? It's midnight here. I need to talk to you and Mom, now, on video." They appeared on my screen moments later, concern etched on their faces. Mom's hair was in curlers, Dad still adjusting his glasses. "Nick's been cheating on me," I said flatly. "With Vivian." The silence was deafening. Then Mom's face changed, that same look she'd had years ago when she caught Vivian stealing my money. "Get your sister on this call," she ordered Dad. "Right, now." Dad seemed frozen. "There must be some mistake. Now, John!" While Dad fumbled with his phone, Mom turned to me. "How did you find out?" Nick confessed. "And there's more." I took a deep breath. "Liam might be hers." Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God." Vivian joined the call looking perfectly, put together despite the late hour. Her expression was carefully neutral, but I knew that look. She was calculating her next move. "What's this about?" she asked innocently. "Nick told me everything," I said. "About your affair, about Liam possibly being yours." For a split second, Vivian's mask slipped. There it was, that same smirk from when we were kids. But she quickly recovered. "He's lying," she said smoothly. "Nick's been pursuing me for years and I always turned him down. Now he's trying to blame me for his cheating." Mom's eyes narrowed. "Vivian, tell the truth." "I am." Vivian's voice rose. "Why would I sleep with her husband? That's disgusting. Besides, look at Liam. He looks just like Nick." Actually, I interrupted, Nick said you pointed out how Liam has your chin and ears, something only you would say if you thought he was yours. Vivian's face went white. She'd tripped over her own lie. Dad, who'd been silent until now, suddenly spoke up. The apartment we bought you in New York, the car, the trust fund payments, all of it stops tomorrow. You're cut off. What? Vivian sputtered. You can't be serious over some misunderstanding? This isn't a misunderstanding, Mom said, her voice ice cold. This is you destroying your sister's life for sport. Again. We should have stopped this years ago. After the call ended, I sat in my dark apartment, surrounded by photos of what I now knew was a lie of a life. I called a lawyer the next morning and filed for divorce. A DNA test confirmed what I already knew in my heart. Liam was Nick and Vivian's biological child. The hardest decision I've ever made was stepping back from Liam's life. I couldn't bear to see Vivian during custody exchanges, to watch her play mommy with my son. The court granted Nick primary custody, with Vivian having significant visitation rights. I got supervised visits once a month, the court's compromise, for the unusual circumstances. Update. Reading these comments has me in tears, both good and bad. So many of you asking if I regret walking away from Liam. Truth is, every single day. But custody situations with narcissists are a special kind of hell, and Vivian would have used him as a weapon against me forever. Someone asked what happened with my parents after all this. That's actually the one bright spot in this nightmare. Have any of you experienced that moment when your family finally faces reality after years of enabling toxic behavior? One weekend, 6 months after the divorce, Dad showed up at my new apartment unannounced. I'd moved across town to a small one-bedroom, where I was slowly rebuilding my life piece by piece. I brought coffee, he said awkwardly, holding up a carrier from Dunkin'. We sat at my tiny kitchen table, sipping our drinks in silence until he finally spoke. I failed you, he said simply. All those years, I let your mother handle discipline. I let Vivian get away with treating you horribly because it was easier than standing up to both of them. His eyes were wet behind his glasses. I'm so sorry. That's when the dam broke. Years of hurt came pouring out. Every instance I'd been dismissed. Every time Vivian's cruelty had been excused. Every moment I'd felt alone in my own family. Dad just listened. Really listened. Maybe for the first time ever. Your mother and I have been in therapy, he said eventually. Separately and together. We're trying to understand how we created this mess. He pulled out an envelope. This doesn't fix anything, but we want you to know we're serious about making amends. Inside was a copy of their revised will. They'd removed Vivian entirely and left everything, their house, investments, about $3 million in assets, to me. We've already transferred ownership of the summer cottage to you, Dad added. The lawyers said it was better to do it while we're alive for tax reasons. I stared at the papers. I don't want your money, Dad. I want the family I should have, had. I know. He reached across the table and took my hand. But we can't change the past. We can only try to do better now. Over the next year, my parents became the support system they should have been all along. Mom called daily, not to criticize but to check in. Dad helped me find a better apartment and stood by me through the ongoing legal battles with Nick. As for Vivian, she tried everything. Tearful apologies, claims of mental health issues, even showing up at my door with Liam once, using him as a prop in her redemption arc. He misses his aunt, she said, pushing him forward like a shield. His aunt? I laughed, the sound harsh even, to my ears. Is that what you're telling him I am? Not the woman who carried him for 9 months, who nursed him and changed his diapers and sang him to sleep every night for 2 years. I made a mistake, she whispered, tears filling her eyes. We're family. You have to forgive me eventually. I looked at this woman, this person who had spent her entire life trying to destroy mine, and felt nothing but pity. No, Vivian, I don't have to forgive you. And we're not family, not anymore. You made sure of that when you slept with my husband and lied about my son. I bent down to Liam's level. His big brown eyes, so like Vivian's, looked up at me curiously. You be good, buddy. I love you very much. Then I closed the door on both of them. That was 3 years ago. I won't lie and say it's been easy. There are nights I cry myself to sleep thinking about Liam, wondering if he'll hate me when he's older for not fighting harder to stay in his life. But the therapist I see weekly reminds me that sometimes the most loving choice is to step back, when staying would mean subjecting a child to toxic adult relationships. I'm coaching college basketball now at a small school in Vermont. I date occasionally, though trust doesn't come easy anymore. My parents visit often, and we're slowly building something that resembles a healthy relationship. Last month, Vivian sent another text. I'm getting married. He knows everything. We want to heal as a family. Please come to the wedding. I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. Some people never really change. They just find new masks to wear. The girl who once stood in her sister's shadow, terrified and alone, she's gone. In her place is a woman who finally understands her worth isn't tied to someone else's approval. And that, my friends, is a lesson that cost me everything to learn. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.